Welcome, dear health seeker. Stay a while and listen to our topic of today. What is the difference between Neo Natural Hygiene and modern medical science? In his book, The Science of Fasting, Dr. Herbert Shelton stated, "For natural hygienists, there are not 20,000 diseases, but many local states growing out of a common systemic derangement. We do not seek to cure disease, but to remove the causes of impairment and to afford the sick organism every natural and hygienic advantage that will facilitate its own spontaneous return to biological and physiological equilibrium." He then continued, "The hygienic system is not a system of treating and curing disease and disorder. It doesn't recognize the existence of hundreds of thousands of diseases, but regards all of these many so-called diseases as expressions of the same thing. Hygienic methods are methods of caring for the body. By these, we seek to place the body under the most favorable conditions for the prosecution of its own healing activities. Rest and sleep, exercise and cleanliness, water and sunshine. We also employ these in all forms of impaired health. We do not regard them as cure-alls or cure at all. There are no diseased conditions in which fresh air is not helpful, but it is no cure-all. In fact, it is no cure at all. There are no disease conditions in which rest is not helpful, but rest is no panacea. Why then accuse natural hygienists of regarding fasting as a cure? All because with it, with rest, sunshine, fresh air, exercise, sleep, quiet, etc., is found useful in all so-called diseases." End quote. In the human body, as well as in a nation or city, the welfare of the entire community depends upon the well-being of its individual members. In the case of the body, it is our cells. If governing bodies would realize and apply these truths and pay more attention to providing wholesome surroundings and proper living conditions for their subjects, to an adequate supply of pure food and a normal combination of work and rest, instead of concentrating their best efforts upon restrictive and punitive measures such as the allopathic treatment, there would be no social problems to solve. Consider the following from Dr. Shelton's book, The Science of Fasting. Does nature cure vomiting, or does she use vomiting as a means of ejecting unwanted materials from the stomach? Does the body cure coughing, or is a vital act by which irritants and obstructions are expelled from the respiratory tract? Does diarrhea need to be cured, or is diarrhea a process by which obnoxious materials are rushed out of the digestive tract? Does nature cure inflammation, or is inflammation a reparative and defensive process by which broken bones are in it, lacerated flesh is healed, and foreign bodies are removed from the flesh? Is there a need to cure fever, or is fever part of the body's own healing activities? Does not coughing automatically and spontaneously cease when there is no longer any need for it? Does no diarrhea cease when it has freed the digestive tract of all offensive materials? Does not inflammation subside when the bone has knit or the wound healed? What is there to cure about various processes of the body that are collectively labeled disease?" End quote. Through our lifestyle choices, we are overloading our body with material that is difficult to process, and thanks to our habits, we are constantly overstimulating our body, which as a result inhibits the body's natural elimination capabilities. In this way, we are essentially forcing our body to retain more and more of this waste material for longer and longer periods. Since this waste material is in its nature very toxic, it is highly detrimental to our organic system. Since it cannot be offloaded fast enough, this toxic waste material will have to be stored in various locations throughout the body, eventually starting to pressure internal organs, even nerves, thereby obstructing the natural flow of energy and slowly lead to autotoxemia. which means self-poisoning. This was also the opinion of Dr. Lindlar in his book Nature Cure, when he said, "Under the influence of wrong habits, of living in the suppressive treatment of diseases, all forms of waste and morbid matter, aka the feces of the cells, together with food, drink, and drug poisons, accumulate in the system, affect the cells, and obstruct the tiny spaces between them. These morbid encumbrances impinge upon and clog the blood vessels, the nerve channels, and other tissues of the body. This is bound to interfere with the normal function of the organism, and in time lead to deterioration and organic destruction." End quote. In the end, this toxic waste material will begin to fester, and the body will need to find a way to get rid of this material, for otherwise it will be a risk to the preservation of life. The body will therefore try to force all the material out of the system by establishing a health crisis, which may take on many forms depending on age, health, energy levels, etc. Should this health crisis be interfered with in any way, especially through the allopathic treatment, i.e. medicinal drugs, operations, etc., which in essence will only smother the outward manifestations of the body's poisoning, the toxic waste material is forced back inside of the organism. In other words, the symptoms, which are the body's effort to relieve itself of the poison, will be suppressed, and the poisonous substance will be retained. This cessation of symptoms is what modern medical science calls a cure. Let's explore what truly happens. The body has wasted considerable energy in a futile effort, and its suffering due to internal poisoning continues. Now it will have to wait for another opportunity to try to get rid of the poison it carries. On top of that, the medicinal drugs are in their very nature highly toxic, so by utilizing them, we are not only not allowing the body to throw off the already present toxic material, but we are introducing more of it, thereby depleting the body even more. Does this approach make any sense to you? Well, this is how modern medical science professes to heal. The next effort of the body will understandably be much stronger, and so will also be the manifestations of the system's poisoning, leading to what is referred to as chronic health crisis, which will either be completed favorably or again forcibly subdued. This cycle is what the modern medical science calls fighting disease. Nature tries to heal, man counters her and tries to bend her to his will. In this whole process, the body is constantly in a poisonous state, wasting energy in trying to maintain equilibrium and eject the toxic material, but instead of being supported, is always compelled to retain it. This has been confirmed by Dr. Lindlar in his book, The Nature Cure, where he stated, "Herein lies the vital difference between the attitude of natural hygiene and that of the allopathic school, i.e. modern medical science, towards disease. The latter spends all its efforts in fighting the disease symptoms, while the former confines itself to creating health conditions in the habits and surroundings of the patient from the standpoint of the disease symptoms, which will take care of themselves and will disappear on the count of non-support." End quote. Even if we disregard all the previous arguments, the clearest difference between neo-natural hygiene and modern medical science lies in their approach to knowledge sharing and treatment of the patient. Modern medical science is all about creating completely dependent individuals, like babies that are dependent on their parents for every little thing. Not only do they try everything possible to make their knowledge sound super complex, but they also encode it in a language only those educated by their institutions can understand, while at best ridiculizing, but at worst violently opposing anyone with a different point of view. There is a saying that if you cannot explain a topic in simple terms, then you either don't understand it properly or you don't want to explain it. Furthermore, what is the actual motivation for modern medical science to actually heal someone? If they do, they won't win any accolades. They merely lose clients, money, and prestige. If they cannot sell medicine to or operate on someone, then that person has no value in their eyes. Just think about it. The whole modern medical science invests all its resources in the study of disease, not of health, and in their treatment of a sick person, they focus on fighting the disease, not on treating the patient. They want to eradicate, combat, and destroy an invisible enemy and thereby affect the cure. We shall address this point properly in our upcoming videos. Natural hygiene takes a completely different point of view. Unlike modern medical science, we don't profess to heal anyone, nor do we sell health in a bottle, for we understand the only healer is nature herself. It is the healer within, and all we can do is provide the right environment to enable the internal healer to perform his art. During any crisis, we focus only on the individual, rather than any symptom, for we understand these can be innumerable, and Neo Natural Hygiene rather focuses on finding the root cause, which always lies in our unnatural living habits. Hence, we could say Neo Natural Hygiene is not a healing art per se, but rather a habit-rectifying art by teaching individuals how to live a natural life, or at least come as close as possible to living such a life, and how our own habits lead us towards lowered health, while showing ways how we can treat ourselves. The goal is to make individuals empowered and independent, not dependent and irresponsible. The revered Adolf, just in his book Return to Nature, explained it in this way. All natural hygienists must regard it as their ideal aim to develop the people to the point where each will be his own physician, and there will be no need to return to the doctor, so to speak. End quote. Once the natural hygiene knowledge is acquired, it can be applied immediately, and instead of being a dependent walking repository for all the substances modern medical science claims are bringing us health, we convert into being our own doctors that take full responsibility and accountability for our health. There will be no need for any outside help, for we will have nature on our side, and there is no better ally than her, despite what modern medical science and all their friends are trying to convince us about. She speaks to us plainly and constantly, but not through words, but through our senses. Once we turn towards her again, we will again be able to hear her voice, and all the other noise about health will lose its meaning. In our next episode, we shall discuss in more detail the topic, what is toxic waste material, that we touched on in today's episode. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Have a nice rest of the day, dear health seeker.